Welcome to my new video series. I get more questions about shipping on eBay than I do everything else put together. So in this series, I'm going to look at everything from eBay media mail to first class packaging to UPS ground and FedEx and everything else that I can. And I'm going to devote a video to each one of those things. Let's not hesitate. Let's dive in and get started. My first video, I'm going to start with one of the most popular shipping methods on eBay of all time, and that is USPS, the United States Postal Service, first class packages. There's 10 things that I want you to know. And let's start with the first one. Number one is that the post office, in their infinite wisdom, has named several different services first class. And it's very confusing if you haven't done a lot of shipping to know exactly which one they're talking about. So I'm going to break it down. There is first class mail, and that is things up to 13 ounces, and it's pretty much shaped like an envelope, and it can't be more than a 1/4 inch thick. And then you have USPS First Class packages, and that can be up to 15.999 ounces, and it can be a box, it can be something else, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then you also have First Class International, which can be like 4 pounds. So the first thing that you need to know is when you just say Post Office First Class, that covers a lot of ground. And for most of what you're going to do on eBay is going to be first class packages and not just first class mail. Number two, there are size and weight restrictions for eBay first class packages. The weight is 16 ounces or less. It's actually 15.999. eBay will allow you to put in 16 and it will still ship first class. But if it goes over that, you need to round up and it won't go first class. As far as sizes go, there's some different things that you have to take a look at. But for the most part, I try to limit first class to 1 foot square, 12 by 12 by 12. And for the most part, if it gets bigger than that, it's going to weigh more than 16 ounces. But if I can keep the box that size or smaller, and it weighs less than that all packaged up, then I can ship that first class. Let's move on to number three. Number three is a little bit tricky. Not every item that meets the size and weight restrictions can ship first class. For example, if you're selling matches, the post office doesn't allow you to ship matches by air. And some of the first class will go by air. Same with batteries. So there are a few items that are restricted that will have to go by a ground method. It won't cover a lot of what you sell, but it will cover some of it. So you have to be careful. It's one of the reasons you'll see when you sell something, it'll say it ships without batteries because that allows them to use first class. So keep that in mind. Batteries especially are one that can trip up a new seller. Let's move on to number four. Number four is that just keep in mind first class packages normally arrive in 2 to 5 days. There are times of the year as you approach the holidays it may take a little bit longer, but make sure that you are communicating with your buyer that that's about how long it's going to take from the day that you drop it off until they get it. So keep that in mind when you're doing that. Let's move on to number five. As an eBay seller, one of the biggest benefits that you have is that you can purchase your shipping labels directly through the eBay platform. And they have some pretty significant discounts worked out with the post office. It will almost always be cheaper for you to buy your label through eBay than it will be for you to walk into the post office. And so I always recommend buying it through eBay for the discount, but also because it automatically provides tracking for you and for the customer. One of the big differences between first class packages and first class mail is first class mail does not come with tracking, which eBay requires. So first class packages, the tracking will be automatic if you bought it through the platform. Let's take a look at number six. First class is not automatically insured. And that means that if you ship it, you're the one insuring it. Let's say that I take this beautiful shirt. I mean, not this beautiful shirt. Let's say I take this, a beautiful shirt, and I package it up, and I ship it first class, and everything gets there. But when it gets there, the buttons broke because of shipping. The post office is not responsible for that. I am. It's my responsibility to package that in a way that covers me for insurance-wise. Also, not having insurance on a first class package If it gets lost, it gets very tricky on what the post office will reimburse or if they will reimburse you. So you can purchase insurance for a first class package, but without insurance, you're self-insuring and you just need to be aware of that. Let's move on to number 7, because number 7 really worried me when I first started shipping through eBay. I had a problem taking a poly mailer, putting a shirt in it, putting a label on it, shipping it, because it was all floppy. And I thought it has to either be flat. In my head, it had to either be flat or it had to be in a box. It had to look like a package. And first class packages don't have to be rigid. They don't have to be perfectly flat. First class mail has to be flat and under a quarter of an inch thick. But first class packages can vary a great deal. And that is something that you need to know. Once you've shipped a while, it won't bother you so much packing something up that isn't flat. But it doesn't have to be perfectly flat. So let's move on to number 8. First class packages are not a guaranteed delivery service. And what that means is while your timing may be 2 to 5 days, there is nothing on the post office's end that guarantees that. At Christmas, it might take 2 weeks, and that's just the way it is. It's really, really important that you remember that if you're shipping first class, that the timeline is not guaranteed. Now, eBay isn't going to hammer you as long as you shipped it on time, but the buyer is going to hold you accountable because you're the one that shipped it to them. So if there has to be a guaranteed delivery date, you might be better off going with another option. But it's really important to keep in mind that first class, that 2 to 5 days is a guideline, and there is no guarantee on the post office's end that they meet those guidelines. It's just what they aim for. My own experience has been that outside of the holidays, it's pretty accurate. I think they do a pretty good job with it, but you need to know that it isn't guaranteed. All right, let's take a look at number 9. I just want to give you a brief idea about how this is charged. I had somebody ask me the other day about a first class flat rate envelope. There is no such thing. First class packages are charged by the weight and dimensions and distance. So it's going to cost you a little bit more to ship it to Alaska than, unless of course you're in Alaska. I'm in Central Texas. It's going to cost me more to ship something to Alaska than it would for me to ship something to Oklahoma, even if the package was identical. So keep that in mind when you're setting your prices, that depending upon where you're located in the country, if you're in southern Florida, you might have higher shipping rates than somebody more centrally located like I am. And be aware of that it isn't flat rate. It's weight and size times the distance. And if you know that, then you can adjust your prices accordingly depending upon what you're shipping out. All right, let's take a look at number 10. Once you have your label on your first class package, you can drop that off at just about any post office location. You can put it in a drop, as long as it'll fit. You can put it in a drop box. You can drop it off at a post office way away from your home. You can even schedule free pickup if you're in an area where they will come by on a regular basis. It's really nice once you have that label affixed that you can just about drop it off anywhere. So that's just the basics of first class packages. My next video, I'm going to cover first class media mail because there's a lot of questions about that. And there's a lot of people that don't use it properly. And I want to make sure that if you're watching these videos, that you know exactly what it is you need to do. That video is going to come out real soon. I appreciate you watching this one. I will see you on the next one as we continue this shipping series on eBay. Thanks for watching. Bye.